Exosuits, hordes of dinosaurs, and a unique setting. These are the promises we've seen with Exoprimal leading up to its anticipated release. While I admittedly haven't looked much into Exoprimal prior to the past month or so, each time I heard more about it, I was intrigued to try it out. Launching on Xbox Game Pass today, I was excited to give it a go playing during the early morning hours at launch. What I did ultimately get from Exoprimal was a game that could easily lose many players early on if they don't stick with the game for more than a few rounds. Exoprimal I see as a misunderstood game. Right from the outset, I was skeptical as loading the game has you link a Capcom ID, set your graphics, which on screen made literally zero changes on my 4K HDR monitor. Creating a Capcom ID also didn't work at first. Between this and the game's opening scenes and tutorial, it was a slog to finally get into the real game, taking well over 30 minutes. This likely could have been simplified, and I'm wondering if anyone else has seen issues with the HDR settings to this point. Now, once you get further into Exoprimal, you certainly can see the appeal early on. Competing against a separate enemy team, completing some relatively simple objectives, such as eliminating a certain amount of dinosaurs, or even potentially defending a certain area. Eventually, you'll be uploaded to a separate dimension, where you and the enemy team are essentially escorting a data block to a certain point. Think of the payloads we generally see in other shooters like Overwatch. Exoprimal doesn't do anything new here in this respect, but having a quote-unquote race does make you want to move faster in these matches. Get behind too far compared to the enemy team, and you will quickly lose the match. Now, during matches, you can choose between your typical assault types, tanks, or support or medic classes. Each one definitely feels different, and the challenge currently is that the game doesn't do a great job of balancing teams like others, once again referencing Overwatch. You definitely want to balance each role among the 5 players on your team, so if you are running solo, hopefully your team is competent enough to notice who is who and adjust accordingly. Having a team filled with tanks or even just straight up assault types will likely see more losses than wins. Not having a healer at all can be troublesome as you progress further into each match, especially when teams see drops for dominators, or effectively the opportunity to play and control a dinosaur. You can then use this against the other team, wreaking havoc and just destroying their chance of being able to win. Playing as a T-Rex or others is a ton of fun and does provide a nice change of pace when you're able to pick this up. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the game feels like it starts slow, and that is especially true for the story. I had a difficult time, and still am to a certain point, trying to understand it. You create your character in the beginning, and for 2023, it's very limited and very cheesy. It's a bit of a head-scratcher how the developers just did not get more in-depth on the character creation, potentially just being in part that you're mostly in an exosuit 99% of the time, but it's still something that I think they could have done better. While you play through each match, you will unlock parts of the story to progress, many of which can just be simple on-screen tidbits that feel a little bit too much like Metal Gear Solid's codec discussions. Otherwise, you will be treated to some pretty nice-looking scenes here and there, but it's something that seems a bit inconsistent. I have found after playing roughly 6 hours of the game that if you do stick with it though, it certainly begins to open up. The problem Exoprimal has is really just a matter of will. There's only one game type to play here at launch, and I would be stunned if this isn't expanded in other ways, but at this time, it just seems like a bit of a miss. The story does seem to pick up a bit more as you move through the earlier hours of the game, and as matches do complete, I do want to see more of what's going on. The progression system as well does have some fairly simple unlocks that don't seem too crazy here so far, but I wasn't a fan of seeing a battle pass system or that there are already some paid for upgrades, including other classes and cosmetics. It's not a surprise to basically being an online only game outside of a PvE mode, but otherwise I wonder if this is even necessary. If you like games in the past like Lost Planet or team-based shooters like Overwatch, it may be worth to give Exoprimal a try, especially if you have a great team or group of friends. Otherwise, solo players will likely find more fun elsewhere. And that's all for today's video. Thanks so much for watching. If you liked it, please hit that like button and share this with your friends. If you're not a subscriber, now's a great time to do so, as we recently relaunched our channel with new content, including first impressions, reviews, and more revolving around Comic-Con culture. Be on the lookout, as we're just 2 weeks away from Raleigh GalaxyCon taking place in Raleigh, North Carolina. We'll be there covering all of the action here on YouTube, as well as our social media pages linked below. This is Michael here with Starling Gaming signing off, and we'll see you next time.